And our media partner on this journey of a lifetime, as usual, is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. If you want to have a grasp of all that transpired on the show this evening, please make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show. Tonight, we are streaming live on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are streaming live at Ghana Port and Harbours Authority. Ghana Port and Harbours Authority. And still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are streaming live at Eye on Port. Eye on Port. Indeed, we shall be getting interactive with you, and so all you have to do is sit back, relax, and grab your phones and send us your messages and comments via our WhatsApp line, which is 0538-037353. 0538-037353. Now, when the time is ripe and I pick signals from the production team, we shall activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. I would like to say a big thanks to Mr. Solomon Anderson and the rest of the team for holding the fort whilst I was away. Indeed, I am back in the saddle, and I thank you so much for choosing Eye on Port here on Metro TV. We are going for a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I dey come.
Shut up!
Mame, feel me talking about what? Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Ron 95.
Fill up with Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for mommy.
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Goyle, good energy.
Goyle is good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302-246-319 or 0243-690-492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, welcome back. So we are now going to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And indeed, in the course of the week, Pacific International Lines, PIL, had cause to receive one of its biggest vessels, a 7,000 TEU vessel, called at the port of Tema. They've named the vessel Kota Tema, after the port city of Tema. Plus the fact that the Norwegian Fisheries Research Vessel has completed a 30-day survey in Ghanaian waters, plus many other stories. Please, let's enjoy them.
One of the largest container vessels of Pacific International Lines, PIL, which has been named after the port city of Tema, Kota Tema, has made its maiden call to the port of Tema. The vessel, which was constructed in 2024, has a length overall of 272 meters, a gross tonnage of 73,172, and a capacity of 7,000 TEUs. At a brief ceremony to usher in the vessel at the MPS Terminal 3 of the port of Tema, the Director General of Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Luguje, said the Port Authority is committed to its responsibility of providing the infrastructure and supporting facilities to receive ships and cargo and handle them efficiently and safely. He described the port of Tema as the hub for West Africa, as most containers coming into the sub-region from Senegal all the way down to Douala in Cameroon are received at the ports for onward distribution by smaller vessels. He revealed that the port of Tema is working towards becoming the biggest hub in Africa. Mr. Lukuje expressed gratitude to PIL for their loyalty to Ghana and the port of Tema over the years through both difficult and good times, and stressed the need for the partnership to be strengthened.
As Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, our responsibility, as you all know, as industry practitioners, is to provide the enabling environment for Ghana's imports and exports in cargo terms.
The Chief Executive Officer of MPS, Mohamed Samara, said his outfit has put in place the right infrastructure and equipment to receive any size of vessel and any volume of containers. He commended the Port Authority for its continuous investment in marine crafts to bring in all types of vessels.
GPHA has been constantly and regularly investing in port tugs and harbor crafts that help ships, dock alongside safely and also handle the increased capacity of the traffic within Tema Port.
Some clients of PIL spoke about how efficient Ghana's ports have been to their businesses.
When we compare to the other port facilities in Africa, we are getting a good service from Tema Port. Especially after berthing the vessel, within 2 days' time we are able to clear our containers. When you compare with the other ports in Africa, normally it will take like 3 to 4 days. But in Tema Port, we are getting good service, especially Tema Berth and Gapua. Both locations we are getting good service right now.
The efficiency of the port, the capacity of the port, the kinds of vessels that calls here, the frequency of the vessel calls and the speed with which the vessel turns around and all that has improved dramatically. So it's a good thing all in all. And with Tema becoming more and more of a hub for sea trade into West Africa, there is also the revenue opportunity for the country as well.
A Norwegian fisheries and oceanographic research vessel, Dr. Fridtjof Nansen, has successfully completed a 30-day fisheries resource survey in Ghanaian waters. The survey will provide the country with detailed scientific data on both pelagic and demersal fish resource, as well as the health of the marine ecosystem and the factors influencing ocean sustainability in Ghanaian waters. The research has the ultimate aim of providing crucial insights for both policy and pragmatic decisions in fisheries management. This transboundary survey conducted in the Western Gulf of Guinea covered the economic zones of Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, between 9th May and 7th June and is part of the 2024 work plan of the Ecosystem Approach to Fisheries Nansen Program of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in collaboration with Ghana's Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development and the Royal Norwegian Embassy. In a ceremony to cap off this exercise held in the port of Tema last Friday, the Deputy Director of Fisheries Scientific Survey Division of the Fisheries Commission, Eunice Ofolie-Num, stated that one interesting fact of the EAF Nansen program is the opportunity it grants to local fisheries scientists to participate in surveys.
A large number of Ghanaians have benefited not only from the job training on board the vessels, but from a wide range of training on topics such as taxonomy, stock assessment, fisheries management, ocean acidification, scientific writing, and there are even some who benefited in scholarship to get their masters and their PhDs.
The EAF Nansen Program Coordinator Meret Tansdad said the program is dedicated to its role as a catalyst for achieving sustainably managed oceans in the face of changing tides. Special Advisor to the FAO Assistant Director General and Regional Representative for Africa, David Fury, noted a critical role of the EAF Nansen Program in driving and supporting the sustainable management of aquatic food systems to eradicate hunger and poverty and foster economic growth.
Through the EAF Nansen program, FAO's vision for blue transformation is becoming a reality. Knowledge and tools are being provided for partner countries to build capacity and maximize the contribution of aquatic food systems to food security, nutrition, and affordable healthy diet.
The United Nations Resident Coordinator Charles Abani stated that in efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, actors must collectively ensure that artisanal fishing communities are not left behind, as they are among the poorest and most vulnerable in the world. The Deputy Head of Mission representing the Ambassador of Norway to Ghana, Cherry Holmes, said research vessel Dr. Fridtjof Nansen's presence here is testament to the enduring partnership between Ghana and Norway. On his part, the Deputy Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development of Ghana, Abdulaziz Ayaba Musa, said the Ministry and the Fisheries Commission, in collaboration with the fisheries associations and agencies, are pursuing measures to prevent the collapse of Ghana's fisheries industry.
We look forward to the results of this survey to inform our policies and our programs. As the research vessel concludes its mission in the Western Gulf of Guinea and sets sail for new endeavors, let us harness the power of knowledge, innovation, and collaboration to build a brighter, more sustainable future for Ghana's marine resources.
The Ghana Shippers Authority has assured the Ghanaian public that it is exploring innovative and more effective ways of seeking, promoting, and protecting the interest of shippers. To this end, the authority has organized a breakfast meeting for top shippers within the Southern Zone to deliberate on the cost and conditions at the seaports, airports, and land borders, following similar meetings with shippers in the Western and Middle Zones. This semi-formal meeting with the Platinum category of shippers, held in Accra, was also an opportunity for the Shippers Authority to consult this select group of stakeholders on the ongoing processes to amend the authority's Establishment Act 1974 NRCD 254. The amendment aims to empower the authority to address contemporary issues of concern to industry players, especially shippers, and to strengthen the authority's oversight role over the commercial shipping sector. The Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Shippers Authority, Kwesi Bafo Sapon, said his outfit is adopting a preemptive approach to addressing challenges in the shipping value chain and also to champion a demurrage-free port in the shortest possible time.
The authority is adopting a preemptive approach to address challenges in the shipping value chain. Shippers will be sent prior notification of anticipated challenges with their shipment, so steps are taken to address them. Some shippers will be assigned relationship managers on an as-needed basis to ensure that your needs at the port are addressed.
He said, to improve service delivery in the industry, the authority is taking steps to implement the provisions of the Ghana Shippers Authority Regulations 2012 LI 2190 Section 6, which relates to service standards.
A key aspect of implementing this includes the signing of service level agreements, known as SLAs, with shipping service providers. Hence, GSA has formed working groups with freight forwarders, terminal operators, shipping lines to develop SLAs that match global industry standards and best practices.
The head of business development and commercial services at the Ghana Shippers Authority, Fred Asiedu-Datte, made a presentation on the process associated with the amendment of the Authorities Establishment Act. He provided more details in an interview.
The process of amending a law is quite elaborate. It involves, first of all, understanding and defining what areas you intend to amend. It involves engagement of stakeholders to get their buying and their understanding and their input, most importantly, in terms of what needs to be amended. We already have secured cabinet approval to initiate this process, and the process is being led by the Ministry of Transport.
During an open forum, some participants expressed a yearn for the proposed amendment of the Shippers Act to equip the authority with the powers to bite when necessary.
A 9-member executive of the Regional Maritime University Alumni Association has been inaugurated with a charge to advance the school's mission and strive to strengthen existing partnerships with stakeholders. The acting Vice Chancellor of the Regional Maritime University, Dr. Jesro Brooks Jr., in a speech said, over the years, the school has produced a collection of past students who have become stakeholders bound by a common goal of ensuring the progress of the university. He charged the alumni to make essential and practical investments for students to receive the best education to become leaders and contribute to the growth of their respective countries.
Current alumni executive must endeavor to promote strong relationships between the alumni of RMU, its current students, faculty, staff, and administration. It is also incumbent upon the alumni to mentor students, to become leaders, take up roles in their communities, countries, and the world at large while building strong collaboration and companionship among RMU alumni and ensure that they stay engaged with their alma mater to maintain the standard as the best as far as maritime education and training within the sub-region is concerned.
The outgoing president of the Regional Maritime University Alumni Association, Chief Engineer Teddy Mensah, thanked management of the university for their support to the alumni. He appealed to all alumni to contribute their quota towards ensuring they affect positive change in the lives of students.
The hope for a better future hinges on full participation by all members, offering positive critique to guide decisions made by Executive Council in the best interest of Regional Maritime University and effecting positive change in the lives of students, staff, and the Alumni Association.
The incoming president of the Regional Maritime University Alumni Association, Chief Engineer Samuel Amoakon, promised to develop and implement programs that will facilitate meaningful engagement and also find solutions in the teaching and learning challenges on campus.
First and foremost, we must endeavor to make our alumni proactive. So I encourage us all to take an active role in our initiative to volunteer our time and experience and to contribute to the ongoing success of our alumni community. By doing so, we can ensure that our alumni network remains vibrant and influential.
There were solidarity messages from stakeholders, including the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, which was delivered by the Principal Marketing and Corporate Affairs Officer, Kennedy Mona.
We are coming at a time where I think there are a lot of issues to address. I have had the occasion to pick information from the RMU that there's grants they're expecting $168+ million from donor partners for the transformation of the RMU. And I think that that's something that the new executive should be fixated at in partnership with the management of the university, so that you can see how best this particular fund can come to fruition, can be realized, so that we can transform the regional maritime vessel.
The event was also used to swear in the newly elected executives of the Ghana Merchant Navy Officers Association, which is the professional body of seafarers and professional stakeholders.
Meridian Port Services Limited has continued on its course to contribute significantly to the regreening of the port environment. In addition to planting 1,001 trees last year, MPS has planted 1,002 trees this year. 2 days after the world celebrated Environment Day, the Chief Executive Officer of MPS, Mohammed Samara, together with staff of MPS and officials from the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and other key port community stakeholders, dug up holes to plant new coconut trees along the main harbour road. An initiative that ties into the Green Ghana project. The CEO of MPS considers this exercise as an environmental responsibility that all within the port environment should commit to.
Well, I mean, once more, it's the environment that we're in. I cannot isolate us from the rest of the environment. You know, any responsible business, you know, has to actually give back to the space that he took from the environment. No net loss is an ideology that we all should think of it. If I take from the environment something, I have to give her something back.
The Corporate Estate and Environment Manager at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Daniel Asare, said GPHA will continue to associate itself with such good causes that serve the environment.
Port authorities are now being called upon to adopt their operations as environmentally clean as possible. And tree planting has been one of the strategies that we use in checking our carbon footprint. So we plant a tree, you know, to serve as a carbon sink to protect the port from environmental pollution, because port operation is full of environmental pollution issues.
In Sekondi Takoradi, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has partnered the Ahantaman Girls Senior High School to promote environmental consciousness. In commemorating World Environment Day last Wednesday, GPHA led a tree planting exercise within the environs of the school. These include Viechia, Pride of Barbados, hibiscus, mahogany, cedrela, avocado and coconuts. In addition to planting 150 seedlings, the team from GPHA, led by the Estate and Environment Manager at the Port of Takoradi, David Helm, held a sensitization exercise to educate the students on why they need to take conscious care of the environment.
We are not just planting the trees and leaving it, but we're going to monitor the growth of these trees. We have marked each tree on a GIS software, where we'll be coming back every now and then to see how the trees are faring. We don't just want to do something on a day. We want this to be sustainable. 5th June is not a day just to pamper the earth, but it's a day to create awareness. And from that awareness, we take good care of the earth every day of the year.
The Western Regional Director for the Department of Parks and Gardens, Isaac Ephraim, emphasized the importance of the Green Ghana project.
Carrying out tree planting exercises goes a long way to increase the tree canopy space in the environment, help to sequester carbon in the environment, and also maintain the climatic conditions within a locality or a small area. Tree planting has a lot of benefits for us.
The students and headmistress of Ahantaman Girls Senior High School expressed excitement to be part of this noble cause.
So this partnership means so much because it's going to be a collaboration in the future. I know that there's going to be an eye on Ahantaman girls so far as environmental protection is concerned, and so far as our understanding and our preaching and spreading the good news about protecting our environment is concerned.
Guel PLC, the leading oil marketing company in Ghana, has maintained its dividend to shareholders despite a challenging year. This was announced at the company's 55th annual general meeting of shareholders held in Accra. The meeting, which was also attended by other stakeholders, declared a dividend of 0.056 pesos per share, amounting to 21,944,335 Ghana cedis for the year ending 31st December 2023. The board chairman of the company, Reginald Daniel Lai, told shareholders that despite a tough operating environment, GOIL PLC achieved a modest profit of 54.7 million Ghana cedis. GOIL, he said, will continue to showcase its resilience and its ability to generate returns for shareholders as a demonstration of keeping faith with them even in difficult times.
Your shareholding is highly valued and cherished. Therefore, despite the challenges we faced, the board has made the decision to maintain and recommend a dividend payment of 0.56 per share, reflecting our commitment to shareholder value and our optimism.
On assets, the board chairman noted that even though the consolidated total assets decreased from 4.6 billion Ghana cedis in 2022 to 4 billion Ghana cedis in 2023, the consolidated non-current assets, including property, plant and equipment, grew from 1.4 billion Ghana cedis in 2022 to 1.6 billion Ghana cedis in 2023, representing a 14.58% increase.
Additionally, the modest current earnings per share EPS of 0.14 Ghana cedis showcase our resilience and ability to generate returns for shareholders even in extremely difficult times.
On the future outlook for the business, the board chairman announced that the GOIL bitumen plant is now fully operational and will soon be officially commissioned.
All right, so that was a long haul of happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. We are now going for the word of phrase of the day. And remember, the word of phrase of the day has been fashioned to bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons we use in the shipping industry. Today's word is consular invoice. Consular invoice.
Consular invoice. Consular invoice refers to a document required by some foreign countries showing exact information as to consignor, consignee, value description, etc. for a shipment.
All right, so welcome back. We are now zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight is all about education and sensitization, and we're talking about duty calculation at the ports. What is duty, and what goes into the calculation of our duties? And to most of us, when we talk about duty at the ports, we are fixated, or our minds settle on, import duties for vehicles. But we remember, we also bring in varied items into the ports, and all these goods that passes through the port, you have to pay duties on them before you're able to clear from the port. And so we are not going to limit our discussion to only the calculation of duties on vehicles or used vehicles, so to speak, as most of us are aware. We're going to look at the entirety of duty calculation for various goods that comes or passes through the port, and how you are going to be able to pay or calculate that. For those of you who are in the diaspora and ship in items and all that, I think this is a good platform for you to learn. If you want to bring in a particular brand, or let's say of a vehicle or a particular cargo or goods, you are going to be able to perhaps check how much you're going to be paying at the port when the goods arrive in the country, so that you can prepare in advance before you ship the goods to Ghana. And so it gives us pleasure this night to introduce to us Mr. Smala Gwemenu, who is the Chief Revenue Officer of the Policy and Programs Department of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. He's no stranger to Iron Port. He's been here on a number of occasions. He's quite lucid, very deep in his field, and you can't contest him when it comes to delivery. And so we're proud to have you once again, Mr. Gwemenu. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. How has the first half of the year been?
It's okay for the authority.
Yes.
For the authority itself, it's been a challenging year, more especially a year where elections will be held in December. So you need to be tactful. We have a very huge target to achieve this year, and as the Commissioner General has indicated, efforts are made to ensure that what is due the state is collected. So there are a lot of works that are being done by all the staff and management of the authority to ensure that we bring or rake in all the necessary or needed revenue for national development. So that is what the authority is focused,
right,
and that is what the department is also focused in helping the authority to achieve.
Awesome. So you mind sharing with us how much you're collecting for this year and how much you've gotten so far? Off the top of your head, not to put you on the spot.
This put you on the spot, so I would prefer that we, but of course that we collect in excess of 150 billion.
Right.
As authority.
That's for the whole year?
For the
150
whole year,
billion?
yes.
Okay. And are you on course to attaining that, to achieving that?
Certainly we are.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So let's zoom into our discussion proper tonight, and we're talking about duty calculation and all the people need to know in terms of the calculation of their duties when they are bringing in their goods and what goes into the calculation of these duties. First of all, tell us, what is duty? If somebody says duty at the port, what is it?
Once again, thank you for having me. I bring you warm greetings from the Commissioner General and more specifically the Commissioner of Customs Division.
Right.
And good morning, a good evening to your cherished listeners as well. Duty is defined in our law, the Customs Act of 2015, Act 891. If you look at the interpretations, Section 151 defines duty as any tax that is imposed on goods either by import or export.
Right.
So a tax that is imposed on goods when they are imported or when they are exported.
Right.
That is duty. It could be an import duty. It could be a value-added tax.
Right.
It could be a national health insurance. There are quite a number of taxes that have been imposed, which also includes any charge that is imposed. That is duty.
Right. Okay. So tell us, let's begin from the start. What are some of the considerations that goes into duty calculations at the port or point of entry, as you alluded to rightly?
So duty is imposed on goods, and for you to determine the amount of duty to pay, you probably have to go through a number of steps.
Right.
This stems from our mandate. So our mandate, the very key one, is to mobilize revenue for national development. Of course, we have other mandate has to do with trade facilitation. We have to combat transnational crime, trade statistics provision, and some related activities as well. But the aspect having to do with revenue mobilization is where we're referring to as the duty collection. The critical things to consider, one has to do with the product that is before you.
Right.
So remember, these are goods that are crossing our borders. And then Parliament by law would say when the goods are coming into the country or leaving out of the country, impose this XYZ amount.
Right.
It could be a percentage on the value or a specific with regards to an attribute of the item.
Right.
If it is a percentage of the value, then you are looking at one, identifying the item in question.
Right.
So there are some things that must go into product identification by looking at the characteristics of the product, looking at the functionality of the product. So you go through a particular process to properly identify the product before you. Once you have identified the product, then you are able to do a proper classification of the product. Classification is just basically to assign an HS code, a harmonized commodity description and coding system. So all goods that are traded internationally have been classified in that document we've been calling the HS.
Code, yeah.
So when you classify that particular product, the rate of duty and taxes are actually applied to the HS code.
Right.
It becomes our tariff lines. So when you identify the product and you assign it the particular HS code, then the rate of duty and taxes would be applied.
Right.
From that particular one, then you can now begin to identify the procedure under which you are admitting this particular product, the procedure for import or procedure for export. You also identify the person who is liable to tax. So the person could be a person who is entitled to a relief under the Exemptions Act, or a person who is not entitled to a relief. When you determine that one, then you go to calculate the tax.
Okay.
The calculation of the tax, because we have made it simple to assign all the various taxes that are applicable to the particular product before you by the HS code,
right,
then you will know which of the taxes that become applicable. Now, for ECOWAS, because we have now entered into an ECOWAS common, how do you call it? Yes, a customs union.
Yeah, okay.
We have what we call the ECOWAS Common External Tariff,
yeah,
which sought to standardize the rates of duty of goods that are coming from outside the community.
Right.
So the rates of duty coming from outside the community are in 5 tax bands. That is the import duty, which is of 5 tax bands.
Right.
It is either a 0% rated item, which is more of goods that are deemed to be of social goods, or it is a 5% rated item, which is probably raw materials or capital goods, or it's a 10% rated item, which are largely intermediate goods, or a 20% rated item, which is finished consumer goods,
right,
or a 35% rated item. These are the rates of duty that within the ECOWAS member states we have agreed to impose on goods that are coming into the community from anywhere outside the community. So Ghana, as a member, has also applied same, or has adopted and applying same.
Right.
So for the case of import duty, regardless the commodity, it is either attracting a 0% import duty, a 5% import duty, 10% import duty, 20% import duty, or 35% import duty. In addition to that one are other taxes that are so required to be imposed and paid. Notably amongst them is the import value added tax, import national health insurance levy, Ghana Education Trust Fund, import,
the GET fund.
that's a GET fund, export import levy.
Right.
Then there are also some transnational levies that we also collect.
Right.
Some on behalf of the states that we all belong to.
Yeah.
So for ECOWAS, we collect the ECOWAS levy. And then for the African Union, we collect the African Union import levy.
Right.
So these are some of the basic levies or taxes that you'll be seeing when you are importing. For export, except for aviation turbine kerosene, which is taxed, all other commodities being exported are tax-free.
Just because we want to promote tax.
Yes, we're promoting export.
Trade balance. Yeah,
yes, promoting export. So that is tax zero.
And export, all right. So let's talk about values. How do you determine values? For calculation of duty purposes.
The determination of customs value. So that we call the customs value.
Yes.
I mentioned that the tax could either be ad valorem, which is a proportion or a percentage of the customs value or the value, or a specific one. So in this particular case, we are referring to when it is a proportion or a percentage of the value. So in the earlier one I mentioned, you needed to properly identify the product.
Right.
Because proper identification of a product will determine the value that is applicable. But of course, if you look into our Customs Act again, the determination of value has also been made, provision has been made for determination of value. Under Section 60 deals with determined value for used motor vehicles. And then under Section 67 down to 68 determines how to value general goods.
Right.
So if you permit me, I could just briefly give you some readouts of those provisions.
Please do.
Just a minute.
Right.
So I'll start by that for general goods, and then we go to motor vehicles.
Okay.
because I know most of the cases that we are to deal with relates to the importation of motor vehicles, so we'll reserve that one. Yes. So if you go to section 67, permit me. Just a minute.
Okay. You're trying to figure out what exactly it is that
yes,
you want to share.
Section 67. So we know that whatever it is that we are doing or we are requesting of you is actually backed by law.
Right.
The reason for which I want us to make reference to the provisions.
Okay.
So 67 deals with customs value.
Right.
67(1) says for customs purposes, customs value is the transaction value or the price actually paid or payable for goods imported into this country.
Right.
I will not proceed further, but just to remain on this one. The transaction value, which says the price
that's how much you bought
actually
the item.
paid, how much you bought the item.
Right.
So, for example, if you take an item as Samsung SU24,
right,
which is a recent introduced Samsung phone.
Phone, smartphone. Yeah.
Proper description of this item is important because if you look at the Samsung same phone S24 has variations within the phone itself. So it could be of a one that has a 128
gig.
Gigabyte
512 gig,
of yes,
or 64 gig,
or 64 or 1 terabyte.
Right.
There are differences in these the prices of these commodities.
Right.
So the price you have actually paid for this item is what they are looking for.
Right.
There are some adjustments that we'll be discussing further, but that is most important. So, and if you look at the requirement for submitting a declaration, there is this provision that deals with proper description of item.
Okay.
And then the ingredients that you're expecting to see on an invoice, a commercial invoice.
Right.
So when you put all these two together, then determines that we are accepting your transaction value. Where we have reason to or not to agree or to accept your transaction value or the price you are indicating as having paid, then we go through other procedures, which is contained in section 68 of the same act.
Yes.
It tells you, which indicates one, by comparing it with identical goods.
Okay.
So it is Samsung S24, 1 terabyte. You compare with another Samsung S24, 1 terabyte, coming from the same geographical jurisdiction, preferably from the same supplier, and then coming into the country within a period of not more than 3 months from the time you are doing an assessment of the goods that is before you. Where you are not able to determine the value by use of that particular method again, then you go further to similar goods, a goods of the same kind, of the same functionality, probably not the exact goods, but then the one that is also performing a similar kind of
like the particular.
Yes. If you are also unable to determine the value from that one, then you proceed further. So there are provisions that are laid down in section 68 where you are not able to agree or accept the transaction value. Then it also goes to certain adjustments. The value before you, how do you adjust it? Some commissions, and so there are royalties. So there are a whole lot of things, but it is made very simple and clear when you go to section 67 and section 68 of the Customs Act 2015 at 891. But when it comes to the valuation of motor vehicles, that differs. And this section 67, 68 I'm mentioning is actually consistent with the World Trade Organization's General Agreement on Tariff and Trade valuation method, which we have adopted and incorporated into our act. And again, Ghana sought permission so as to have another form of valuing vehicles. So that is contained in section 60 of the Customs Act. If you go to section 60, just briefly to... Sorry, just a minute.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out.
Yes, so section 60 deals with the valuation of used motor vehicles.
Okay.
If you look at section 62, 62 says the value of a used motor vehicle is the price of the motor vehicle as assessed in accordance with this section, together with freight, insurance commission, and any other cost, charges, and expenses incidental to the delivery of the motor vehicle at the port or place at which the vehicle first entered the country.
Can you break down for us?
Yes, I'll break it down.
Yes.
The customs value for ad valorem tax calculation on imported goods is the cost, insurance, and freight. CIF, what we mentioned in CIF.
Value, yeah.
Now, let us come to decomposing this CIF. We look at the cost, we look at insurance, and we look at freight.
Yeah.
So here it is mentioning, and in the other one, 67, 68, it's also mentioning the cost of freight.
Yeah.
Freight is how much you have spent shipping the goods from the exporting country to Ghana,
to the
Ghana port here. So from maybe the port of Antwerp to the port of Tema, the cost of shipment. Then insurance is how much you have paid by way of insuring the cargo.
Right.
The cost is everything from the cost of the item, how much you have bought the item, to the cost of you bringing the item to the exporting port.
Right.
At where you'll be exporting the goods from whichever country to Ghana, including the cost of putting the goods onto the departing vessel.
Right.
So we call the departing means of conveyance. And any other related fees and charges you would have paid.
Okay.
It includes it. That constitutes the cost.
Right.
Now, for these used motor vehicles, it became difficult to determine because there are cases where the goods have been auctioned. There are cases where the vehicle had been, maybe whichever the condition is. You know how we buy motor vehicles. So it is via auction, it's via this. So we have standardized it to say, okay, for us to have a standard application of duty, or application of value for used motor vehicles, let us go through this particular means.
Right.
So it says that where the motor vehicle is, at the time you are importing the motor vehicle, if it is no more than 6 months,
right,
it's no more than 6 months from the time the vehicle was first purchased at the country where it is being exported from.
Yeah.
If it is coming to Ghana and it's no more than 6 months, then you admit the vehicle by use of the purchase value when it was being purchased for use in that country. So if it is, say, Mercedes-Benz that is for at Germany, and you have bought the Mercedes-Benz from the showroom at, say, 40,000 euros.
Okay.
And this 40,000 euros does not include domestic taxes. You pick 40,000 euros. Then you begin to adjust that particular value.
Right.
The adjustment is what has also been spelled out in the law. So if you look at 63, tells you how to adjust it. We call it depreciation.
Okay.
How you can depreciate this value depending on the extent of usage of the vehicle. So where it is not more than 6 months, they are saying admit it, no adjustment.
Only just as you bought it.
Just as it was bought, which is called the home delivery value.
Right.
But where it is more than 6 months, but not more than 1.5 years, then adjust it by deducting 15% of that value. So you take 15% of the value. Again, if you look at where it is more than 1.5 years, but less than, not more than 2.5 years, adjust it by taking 30% of that home delivery value.
Right.
Again, when it is more than 2.5 years, but not more than 5 years, it says adjust it by taking 40% of that value. So the value then becomes 60% of that home delivery value. Or where it is more than 5 years, to whichever period, adjust it by halving the value. That is 50% of the value. Then it goes beyond to say, okay, after you have done that one, then you have now determined the cost.
Yeah.
When you have adjusted, that becomes the cost. Then you add the cost of freight and that of insurance. Again, for motor vehicles to have a standard application of freight is when, again, we have also come out to have a standard freight to be applied to categories of motor vehicles.
Right.
It could be that of a category under saloon vehicles or as a sport utility vehicle. It could be, so there are variations under which we apply the freight.
Right.
It could be a 707, depending on the type of vehicle, determines the freight to apply. Once you have done that one, then you apply insurance. Insurance basically by law is when you are unable to provide evidence that your cargo had been insured. Then the law makes provision for us to apply a percentage on the cost and freight as your insurance. So if it is coming by sea, we apply a 0.875% on that cost and freight value.
Yeah.
If it is coming by air, we apply a 1% on that cost and freight value. That gives us the cost, insurance, and freight value, which we call the customs value. Then we now apply the rates of duty and taxes on that value when it is ad valorem.
Okay. All right. So there have been instances where, clearing agents, freight forwarders, and importers have had issues with customs officers because they say when they present their values as to this is how much I bought this item out there, there's always this kind of, rebuttal that no, we don't agree, this is not how you bought it. And some of them goes as far as citing examples for the fact that perhaps I have the negotiation power, I've been able to negotiate for a discount on this particular item, and so this is how much I've paid. I paid for it. But customs remains adamant. They remain adamant and say, no, this is what we know the price is. How is that? Why is that?
So here you're mentioning the cases where we disagree
exactly
with the value that you have. It's a self-declaration.
Yeah.
So the law requires you to self-declare. So and there's provision when you are self-declaring. I'll take you to Section 49. If you look at Section 49 of the Customs Act, tells you when you are making a declaration what and what you are required to provide. So one critical one has to do with a genuine commercial invoice.
Right.
A genuine commercial invoice. And in that genuine commercial invoice, we are expecting to have the name and address of the buyer and the seller.
Right.
We are expecting to have the date and terms of sale. We are expecting to have the quantity, weight, or volume of the shipment.
Right.
As to also have the type of packing, type of packaging, and a complete description of the goods.
Right.
So there are cases where I made and I give an example of a Samsung Ultra S24.
Yes.
You probably had described your item as Samsung Ultra S24.
Yeah.
And then you provided a particular value as the sales value.
Yes.
It could be that S24 in specific terms is actually an S24 128 gigabyte of storage capacity.
So it's very important
1
for
terabyte.
You to, it's very important for you to
where you are unable to provide
of the gig
and properly describe the items. Then we begin to have issues where you do not provide enough trade supporting documents. Then we begin to have issues. For example, if you are bringing items from China and you are supposed to transfer funds for the purchase of goods, Bank of Ghana regulations require you, where the value is, the amount is more than 10,000 USD or its equivalent, to transfer these funds through the banking system.
Yeah.
So if you provide evidence of same, because the transfer will be based on the value of the item you would have negotiated.
Right.
If you do all those ones, then of course that we are now tempting to believe or agree with the value you are providing to us.
Right.
Anything short of that one means that you are asking us to go through several methods, several means to determine or know whether whatever it is you are telling us is something we should admit or not. Relationship, maybe we want to know whether there is a relationship between you, the buyer, and the seller. And that has influenced the value that you are presenting to us.
Right.
That must not be part of it at all. So when you have enjoyed a discount different from any other person, you are supposed to restore that discount. when you are making a declaration of value.
Yeah.
So when as you have mentioned, that the person complains, he had negotiated. Of course, you have negotiated, and because of that one, they have given you some discount.
Yeah.
That discount is supposed to be known to us. It's a self-declaration.
Right.
So you tell us that on that invoice, the terms of delivery, the terms of sale will tell you, I'm giving you the amount at the item as this, less a discount of this.
Right.
So that we can do all those restorations.
Right.
So when this information are not known to us, that is when we begin to reject you on the transaction value, section 67.
Okay.
Then we proceed to 68. Then it is the 68 when we do that that we have the issues. We go back and forth. You indicate that you disagree with our value. So what we do is not to impose, but to say that when we compare the item you are bringing, the value of it, to an identical item or to a similar item, or we use another method by way of deductive or whichever approach, this is where we think, or this is what we think the value should be. And then we give you this particular result. If you disagree with us, there is a provision again in the law for you to do to raise an objection to our assessment, which we call an appeal.
Right.
When you are doing the appeal, that is when you support it with additional information to convince us that whatever it is that we are using as basis to determine, we should also reconsider and consider your position. So that is so when we disagree is when we come to section 68, and it is the 68 that people would normally be contending. But there's provision for you to make an appeal.
Okay. At what point would you say there's discrepancy in the documentation or perhaps a valuation declaration? At what point? And when some of these things arise, when there's a discrepancy in the documentation or in the valuation declaration, how do you handle these issues?
So it's a self-declaration. It means that when you submit, so let's go through a very basic process of import by sea. So you have placed an order for items. The items have been shipped to you, and then it is the items are coming with supporting documents. The item could come, the supporting document is one, the trade document, which is your commercial invoice, and those related ones. And then two, the transport document, which is the by sea, which is the bill of lading. The bill of lading, which is the contract of carriage or shipment, will tell you the conditions of shipment as well. So when you get all these documents, then you submit a customs declaration to us. And I was telling you what the Commissioner General is expecting of you when you are self-declaring.
Absolutely.
Provide a proper description of the item, supporting documents and all those ones. If you are required to get any form of license, permit, certificate, or any other documentation, or you are making a claim of an exemption, also you support all those ones, and we make a decision on you.
Right.
So now when you do all those ones and then you file, you submit that document to us, then we subject it to some form of verification.
Yes.
We have stages that we subject this verification to. We'll be looking at the product itself to see whether it has been properly described and properly classified by you. Where it has not been classified by you, then we'll make an attempt to suggest that instead of putting it under this particular tariff line, it should rather go under this particular tariff line. Looking at the composition of the item, looking at the functionality and those characteristics of the item. Then we proceed to also look at your values.
Right.
Looking at your commercial invoice to see whatever it is that you are providing, whether it is something that we are able to admit, devoid of any relationship, advantages. When you do that one, then we proceed to see the procedure under which you are submitting the declaration as to whether you are utilizing the right procedure. Maybe it is the case where it is for a particular person who is to enjoy a particular relief, or it is for a manufacturer or it is for release into free circulation and for sale somewhere. Right. So we look at all those ones. For each of these stages that I have mentioned, there could be a case of discrepancy. Okay. This is at the stage of document verification.
Right.
So it could be the case that you have not properly described the item and you have not provided the relevant support documents, or whatever you have supported with may not be something we want to admit,
right,
because it must be consistent with the law. Or it is the case that the provisions or the procedure under which you have entered the item may not be the right procedure. Each of these particular cases could be a form of discrepancy. So we'll make an attempt to do a corrective, we take a corrective approach by suggesting to you that whereas you have submitted the case as this, we think it should rather be this one, looking at the provisions, or we reject your declaration for you to do modifications. Then when we complete the document verification stage and you accept whatever it is that we have all agreed with,
right,
you proceed to do payment. Then you now go to the port for cargo delivery. Depending on the risk that would have assigned the cargo, it could be that you are a compliant person,
right,
or the commodity in question is a commodity that we may not have issues with. So we don't want to do a physical inspection of the cargo.
Right.
Take delivery of cargo.
Yeah.
It could be the case where we want to conduct that level of physical examination, intrusive examination,
right,
beyond even scanning and using scan analysis to make decisions.
Yeah.
Where we find that the item that you have brought, which we are now inspecting, when we compare the item with your document, information you have provided to us, where there are discrepancies, then again, it provides the platform for us to institute corrective measures.
Right.
So these are stages that you can determine discrepancies. It goes beyond it, because if you look at Section 3 of our Act, which says that we should adopt trade facilitation measures, risk management approach, means that it is not everything that becomes subject to physical inspection.
Right.
So whereas we devote resources to making sure that we, at the minimal level, do not compromise on revenue, there are cases where, because of trade, a balance between customs control and trade facilitation,
right,
certain goods are allowed to go without physical inspection.
Right.
The provision is also made that beyond the clearance of the goods from the port, we can also come after you.
Yeah.
We have up to 6
As
years
a
to do a post-clearance audit on you, just to confirm whether whatever it is you have provided us at the time you are taking the cargo is what we should be admitting, or there is additional information which is actually reflecting in your financial records, in your sales records at your premises, that we were not privy to, so that we can do a review of the transaction we had earlier cleared for you to do any additional form of tax payment.
All right, awesome. All right, so this is Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we're taking a look at duty calculations, and we have in the studios Mr. Smile Agbemenu, who is Chief Revenue Officer at the Customs Division, Ghana Revenue Authority. He is with the Policy and Programs Department. He's feeding us in with what the nuances and intricacies are in terms of duty calculation of the various goods that we bring into the ports, what goes into the calculation of these duties and all that. We're going for a quick break here. When we return, we'll continue the discussion. We'll also take your messages and perhaps activate the phone lines for you to call in. Please stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I dey come.
Shut up!
Mame, feel me talking about what? Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Raw 95.
Fill up with Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey,
Choose Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Goyle, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, streetlights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
So welcome back. This is Sion Port here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we're taking a look at duty calculation and all you need to know about it. With us in the studios, Mr. Smile Agwemenu, Chief Revenue Officer, Customs Division, Ghana Revenue Authorities, with the Policy and Programs Department of the division. Indeed, we are now going to take your messages, and you can also give us a call and contribute to the discussion. The number to dial will be shown on the screen pretty shortly. It is 020-552-8353. 020-552-8353. I realized some of you were calling the WhatsApp line. That's just for WhatsApp. That's the 053. This is the phone-in line. You can call 020-552-8353, and then you would contribute to the discussion. Indeed, I'm going for your messages now, and this one says, if there is a standard tariff regime for ECOWAS, how come duty on cars imported through Togo is cheaper than duty on cars in Ghana? I think we've talked about this several times, but maybe you'd want to oblige the person. He didn't add his name though, and he goes further to say, if I import a car that I purchased through auction in the USA and I have documents to support that, why do you still use your own values to calculate the amount for duty to be paid. So this is a two-in-one question. If you'd want to oblige the sender who hasn't added the name, and then we'll continue.
Remember, what we do by the law. So we don't decide to do what we want to do.
Okay, I understand there's a caller on the line. Good evening. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Please tell us, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Tema.
Tema.
Yeah.
And what's the name, please?
My name is Morgan.
Morgan.
Yes.
Please shoot.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Please go ahead.
My issue is I had a brother who was clearing his car from the port. He was clearing his car from the port, and they mistakenly took a 2.5 capacity engine for a 3.5 capacity engine.
Okay.
So the custom officer advised him there was going to be a refund. That's about 17,000 Ghana cedi.
Okay.
That should take about 3 months.
It will take about 3 months for the refund to be done.
Yeah, for refund.
Okay.
But as of now, the clearing agent is still claiming that it's over a year now, and he's claiming the government has put a stop or the hold on refunds.
Okay.
So I want to know whether that is very true.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I'm sure Mr. Agbemenu would give you a response. He says they imported the car and they mistakenly, instead of 2.5 engine CC, they rather made it 3.5. And so there was supposed to be a refund when the anomaly was detected. Several months down the line, they said they were supposed to stay. They said they were supposed to, wait for like 3 months before the refund of 17,000 cedis would be paid. But they waited more than that, and they've been told that this cannot happen because there's a freeze on refunds. Do you have any knowledge on this, and what do you have to tell him?
So to start with, that is unfortunate that most likely we didn't have proper description of the vehicle, which could have resulted in the case of, this is a case of classification. So it affected the rate of duty. Whereas the person would have paid an import duty of 10%, ended up paying for an import duty of 20%. The law makes provision for a refund for cases where a wrong assessment has been made. So there's never a hold on refund because the refund is in the Act, and there's never an amendment to the Act to put a hold on refund. So if he has a case, of course, it's a good feedback. We'll take this one, we'll advise that he approaches either the sector command or the commissioner's office to actually lodge this particular complaint, and then to seek proper redress. But there is never a hold on refund. Once you have paid tax for which you are not to pay, the Commissioner General is legally bound to refund the whole amount. The earlier case where the person mentioned that he had bought the vehicle at a showroom in the US at X amount, auction, at an auction, and has supporting documents. Again, if you look at the provisions of Section 60, does not permit us to admit the vehicle using how much you have bought it at the auction.
Okay.
There's a legal provision that we are supposed to follow when we want to determine the customs value for used motor vehicles, which I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Until that provision is changed, we are legally bound to follow it, which indicates that we are supposed to use the value of that commodity of the vehicle when it was first purchased for use in that home country.
Yeah.
And then we depreciate that value depending on the age of the vehicle when it arrived in the country here.
Right.
That is the legal provision for determining the customs value for a used motor vehicle.
Okay.
And that is what we apply, which is a uniform application and a standard one for the case of Ghana. It could be a different case for other countries. So if somebody is indicating that the tax that the person has paid for a similar vehicle or identical vehicle at the port when it is coming through the port of Lome and admitted into the economy of Lome, there is difference because our law is different from that of Togo. And our law for vehicle valuation is Section 60 of the Customs Act 2015 at 891.
Okay. All right. All right. I understand we have another caller. Do we have? Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Okay, I think the fellow is gone off. We have Ohima from Tema, our regular texter, who says, good evening, I report on the customs target for 2024 being 150 billion Ghana cedis. How does customs or GRA arrive at the target for the year? Do they consider the reducing volume of imports? Are they minded by the increasing number of bilateral and multilateral free trade agreements Ghana continues to enter into? Special greetings to Smile. This one is Paulina Brapa. Yeah, maybe you'd want to prefer a response and then we move on.
Yes, the target I was mentioning is not for the customs division, but that of GRA. Currently, customs is collecting in the region of 30% of total tax revenue.
Okay.
Of course, the person is, Paulina is right, and good evening to Paulina.
Yes.
It's right to mention how we are striving, knowing that we are implementing certain preferential agreements.
Yeah.
Preferential agreements currently, we are implementing, I think, 4.
Okay.
We have our old ECOWAS trade.
Okay, we have our old ECOWAS trade. I understand we have, hold it there. When we come, we'll respond to Pauline. But I understand we have a caller. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Awesome. My name is Patrick. I'm calling from Sakumono.
Right, okay. Please shoot,
Patrick. Accra. Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, I will commend the education and the awareness you are creating. And also, I would I recommend that we scale it up. Majority of us, we basically do not have much knowledge with some of these things. So we just feed ourselves with this social media information that is not doing us well at all. So I would just recommend that you scale it up and recommend you for the good work you are doing.
Thank you.
So first of all, my question has to do with the fact that some of the taxes, I don't know if they are double taxes or ×2 of whatever we buy outside. And I want to find out if those taxes are actually to penalize, or those taxes are actually to, or they are restrictive mechanism to control whatever we import. That is what I want to know.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much indeed, Patrick. We are grateful to you for your call. Remember, you can also call. The number to dial is 020-552-8353. Yes. So let's deal with Pauline's first, and then you come and respond to Patrick's.
Okay, again for Paulina, her concern was.
Yes, Pauline wanted to know how you are able to deal with the 150. What goes into the arrival of the targets you set for the year?
Yes, I mentioned that is for GRA.
Yes.
Customs is just about 30%.
And we have domestic tax revenue.
Yes, we have domestic. They are now collecting chunk of our revenue.
Money. Okay.
And of course, if you are looking at the economy where we are going towards, if we are growing domestically, then it's expected globally, where you have to collect more domestic revenue compared with import revenue.
There's another caller. All right, so you just finish with that, and then we'll attend to that. Yes,
so
quickly,
if determining how much to collect, there are a lot of factors that go into it.
Right.
Basically, it deals with projecting. So you look at what you have done in previous time.
Right.
And you compare, you can do some historic analysis to see some 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 years ago, how much have you collected? And you can monitor the trend of collection. Then you also look at your efficiency gains or growth to see what measures are you able to put in place to improve your collection, your effectiveness of tax collection. You also look at government policy to see which of the government policies are changing that will impact the revenue you are collecting.
Okay.
You put all those ones together, of course, will give you an idea how much you are likely to collect in the next year and medium term.
Right.
That is actually done and contained in the budget statement, which becomes what we are expected to collect.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, sir. Please, your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, my name is Mohammed. I'm calling from the Spintex Road.
Spintex Road. Please shoot, Mohammed. Please go ahead.
Yes. My question is, I think I would like to, commend you for the job you are doing.
Thank you, sir.
We are very, hello?
Yes, please go ahead, Mohammed.
So we have been educated very well about this. However, when your guest was making his presentation, he made mention that there is an agreement within ECOWAS to charge virtually the same thing. That's why he's saying that there's a percentage that they take for ECOWAS, levy, whatever. So, but how come that if there's a standard like that, how come it's not talking about the laws of Ghana is different from laws of Togo? Then where does ECOWAS come in? Because he told us that there's a standard, that ECOWAS they've all agreed. Right. So how come that theirs is different from that of, Togo, especially in relation to this used vehicle thing?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. We're grateful to you, sir. Yes, Mr. Aguminu.
Okay, so I mentioned that we are practicing what we call the common external tariff.
Absolutely, yes.
The common external tariff is in relation to the customs duty, which is the import duty, which I mentioned that it is of 5 tax band, 0, 5, 10, 20, and 35. Of course, even within that one, the member states are allowed to vary within 3% of the tariff lines. Currently, we have 6,381 tariff lines.
Yes.
Member states are allowed to vary the rate within 3% or up to 3% of the tariff lines.
Yes.
So it is possible that within that 3%, if you recall, we have used that provision to vary the rate for spare parts. Some time ago, when we were doing this case for the Abosokai spare parts dealers, we reduced the rate from whichever rate it was to 0%. That differed from the ECOWAS rate.
Yes.
And in just last year, for us to adopt the 2022 edition of the CET, again, we did some variations to the rate, which brought our rate, the total variations to about 111 or so, total tariff lines that we have adjusted or varied different from that of ECOWAS. And in all those cases were reductions in the rate. So for that particular type of import duty, we are supposed to apply the same, minus that 3% variation. But we have domestic other taxes that we are supposed to collect. If you look at the Value Added Tax Act of 2013, indicates imposition of VAT on vatable goods when they are being imported. So we wouldn't be collecting just import duty and ask domestic tax, we are one GRA, to also come to the port and collect VAT. So because we are using the same resources, we collect those other taxes. That is the one that brings the difference between what an ECOWAS member state would have been collecting and what Ghana specifically is also collecting. Because of these additional domestic taxes that we are collecting at the point of importation.
Okay, I think that we've run out of time. We cannot take any more calls. And there are some messages here. I would like to take them. But I want to believe that we must have a part 2 of this one because we haven't gone anywhere as far as this particular discussion is concerned. And so, God willing, if we speak to our bosses and they give us the permission, we shall have a part 2 of this particular discussion, God willing, next week. But some of the messages that have come through, this one is from Samuel in Kaswa. It says, Iron Port is one of my favorite programs. Well done for their education. Please, I want to suggest that there will be a display of how to do the calculation, not only by mouth. It will help us, it will help some of us to appreciate the education well. Thanks a lot. And so it means that next week when you are coming, if God willing, my bosses agree, you'd have to bring some pointers so that we can project here, and then you get the people to appreciate exactly, like in a real classroom situation, how the duties are calculated. This one says, he continues that my import company just sent me my bills, that shipping fee, without me knowing if that's what I need to pay, because I don't know how to calculate my shipping fee. And so I think that we need a part 2 of this one. And this one says, good evening, I import. Thank you for this program. Please ask your guest if he has an idea as to what the duty on household goods is for both 20 or 40 footer containers. That's John in Kaswa. And this one says, please ask your guest that doesn't he think the HDV used to determine the duty of vehicles is old-fashioned and should be changed? Okay, he continues. That's from Mark Insia in Ashoman. So we'll tackle that next week when we have Mr. Agwemenu back, but we need to seek permission from bosses. And so we'll draw the curtain on tonight's edition of Our Import here on Metropolitan Television. Remember, we've been taking a look at duty calculations and all that you need to know. We've been speaking with Mr. Smile Agwemenu, who is the Chief Revenue Officer with the Policy and Programs Department of the Customs Division, Ghana Revenue Authority. We'd like to say a big thanks to our sponsors, Ghana Revenue Authority, Guel PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and Indies Phoenix Insurance. Remember, our media partner is the Business and Financial Times, and the show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of your favorite show, Eye on Port. My name is Kennedy Mona. Remember to watch the brief version of the show on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on Ghana Television. Have a good evening, and please expect a super week ahead. God bless you for watching. Good evening once again.